In today's transfer target video, we're going to be talking all about Alexander Isak and Ait Nouri, plus the best players you should be looking to buy ahead of double game week 34. Before we dive into today's video, I just want to say that we're super close to 4,000 subscribers, so if you do want to help the channel out, be sure to like, comment, and of course, the main one being subscribed to help us achieve that goal. Now, I thought before we kind of delve and have a look at any players, we would talk about the fixtures that are kind of upcoming, because it's important to know what chip strategy you are actually on before you decide which players to potentially bring in. Now, there's two kind of trains of thought for the next few weeks. You're on a 34 free hit or you're not. That's pretty much going to determine your transfer plans. Now, let's start off with if you are on a 34 free hit. For me, ideally, you're probably looking at people that have okay-ish fixtures here, but more than likely double here. That is going to be your plan. So that is looking at people from Newcastle United, Tottenham, Chelsea. They're probably going to be the teams that you're going to be looking to target over the next few weeks with your transfers if you are free hitting in 34. Now, if you're not free hitting in 34, maybe you're wildcarding in 35, you're going to dead end the team into 34, then for me, the next three fixtures, especially the double, are going to be the teams that you're looking to identify. So that is the likes of Liverpool, that is the likes of Arsenal, Bournemouth, these teams, Wolves as well, Everton. These teams with pretty decent fixtures plus a double game week, they're going to be the ones you are going to look to target. If you want to take a screenshot of this, be my guest. It'll help you with your transfers. As always, this is put together by Ben Krellin, so if you want to go and check out his work, a link to that will be left in the description. Starting off, the first player that I wanted to go and talk about is Ait Nouri. Now, I do feel he is quite applicable for both free hitters and non-free hitters in game week 34. He's got good fixtures coming up in the next two, West Ham and Nottingham Forest. Both defensively are leaving a few questions to be asked over the course of this season. Then obviously has the double in game week 34. One of those games being Arsenal though, so a little bit difficult. But then after that, if you're looking at maybe a 37 bench boost, has a pretty strong fixture that week as well. So, does offer himself up as good utility for both those free hitting in 34 and not free hitting in 34. Now, the reason a lot of people are kind of clambering towards this guy is his goal scoring record. He is absolutely slapping them in. As you can see over the past 5 game weeks, 2 goals for him. Definitely should have had another one against Burnley today. A fantastic save in the end did stop him from scoring another big opportunity. It's just the positions this guy is getting into for a 4.6 million defender is absolutely ridiculous. Burnley's Twitter accidentally mistook him for a forward. So that kind of, says what they think about his performance and the position he was getting in. If you watch him with your eyes as well, watch any Wolves games, he is always a threat, always a danger, always in the right position. So for me, a really, really easy go and buy if you're not on the 34 free hit. If you, are not on the 34 free hit. But I think as well, there is that argument to be had that if you are on the 34 free hit and maybe looking at that 37 bench boost, he's got 2 nice fixtures which lead you into the free hit, then a good fixture as well for the bench boost. It's not a double game week, but it's still a pretty strong single game week. Now, I think a lot of people have potentially felt like maybe this ship sailed on this one because of the hype within the FPL community. I'm just going to stop you right there. This guy's ownership at the time of recording is 3.8%. So there's still plenty of room, plenty of scope to go and jump on this guy. And I do feel he is going to get some more attacking returns. If Wolves potentially pick up a clean sheet as well along that run, well, we could be looking at a pretty nice score, especially in that double game week. I'd probably rule out the Arsenal game. He's probably just going to pick up his points for playing. Maybe might get an attacking return if you're lucky, but then it's probably that second game that he probably should start to slap and exploit. So Ait Nouri, I think, is a great player to go and buy for this game week. Moving on to my next transfer target, and it is going to be Alexander Isak. Now, I recommended him in my game week 31 transfers target video, and look what he's done. He's gone and picked up another goal this evening. Very easily could have had a second as well. A shot cleared off the line. Also had an assist ruled out for offside as well. Very, very marginal. On another day, you do imagine VAR, potentially they wobble the lines a little bit and give one of those. So, he's in really, really good goal-scoring form as well. 5 goals in his past 6 Premier League games. As you can see as well, that 1 assist from the last Premier League game at the weekend. But obviously could have had another one today. Shot cleared off the line. I was a little bit concerned with the lack of Anthony Gordon and what that would mean in terms of creativity. But you know what? It kind of worked out, so I'm pretty happy with that. You know, it didn't look to kind of impact the Newcastle side and overall Isak's performance and chance creation and you know, shots that he was getting in front of goal. So I think even still, he's definitely a really, really good player to go and pick up. I think if you are on the 34 free hit, he makes a lot more sense as Newcastle have strong fixtures afterwards and also have a double in game week 37. Even if, you know, you're not on the 34 free hit, he still could be a really good player to go and pick up. Decent fixture in that game week. And like I said, long term, Newcastle have some pretty good fixtures. No European football for them as well. So, you know, does get quite a lot of time in between games to rest up, potentially fully recover on penalties as well, and has a double in game week 37. There's a lot currently riding on him. And you know what? I think the next fixtures as well, he could do very, very well. Fulham have conceded 6 against 2 low kind of down the bottom sides in Sheffield United and Nottingham Forest today. So, you know, anyone that's conceding 3 against Sheffield United and follows it up by conceding another 3, some questions have to be asked of their defence, and you imagine a man in this form is going to take full advantage of that. Spurs throughout the season and the course of Ange's kind of tenure have been unable to keep clean sheets as well, so you imagine Isak would do quite well in that one. And then Crystal Palace, it's not really working out for their new manager. I think it's 8 or 9 games without a win now for them, so even the game week 34 fixture is pretty decent for him. Like I said, if you are on the free hit or not on the free hit, I do think this transfer has merit for both sides, but I do think it favours the 34 free hitters just that little bit more. I think Darwin is the more sensible pick for those that are potentially not on the 34 free hit, but we will come on to talk about him in a second. Like I said, we would come on to talk about Darwin Núñez. I wanted to kind of look at Liverpool from kind of a holistic standpoint and talk about all their players and potential options. As I've been asked a few questions in my streams, which Liverpool players should I be looking to get in for 34? Now, they haven't played. That's why I've not included their stats on this one. And I wanted to include pretty much some players that I didn't really fancy kind of delving into, looking into their stats and putting them on screen. I just wanted to kind of talk about them briefly because there's situations that are going to arise with other players coming back from injury or not. So let's talk about Mohamed Salah first. I think he's an absolute must-have if you are not on the free hit for 34. He's probably going to be a captain that week. Really, really good double game week for Liverpool as well. Like I said, he's going to be the captain and probably should be your number one priority if you haven't got him already and you're not on a free hit for 34. Luis Diaz and Darwin Núñez kind of fit into the same categories. I think Darwin has a lot more merit, especially with the Watkins injury. If you have held Watkins through game week 31, I think there's a very easy switch to Darwin Núñez in game week 32. Obviously, this is being filmed before the Liverpool game does take place, so just make sure before you do these transfers that everyone is fit and available and makes it through that game. But yeah, I think Darwin to Watkins, that makes a lot of sense. Then you can move Darwin out afterwards for Alexander Isak in game week 35 if you've not got the wild card, or if you've got the wild card, you can then again dead end your team into 34 and make that switch very easy. Luis Diaz, I think, would be a player that is more for the free hitters than for people just kind of looking to build their teams. He is okay. He doesn't really put up anything absolutely amazing in terms of numbers, goals and assists. He's not a player that I'm absolutely dying to go and get into my team, but I do think he's a nice potential differential option. Probably would be the third best Liverpool player to go and select in my personal opinion. Now, other players that are kind of in the kind of talking points for the Liverpool one, I think Bradley and Kelleher kind of are two of the same and fit into very similar options. The question is whether or not they're going to make it to game week 34, the game week you need them, and whether or not it's worth bringing them in. Alisson's rumoured injury is around mid to late April, so Kelleher might just about see the double game week 34, so that one potentially could be worth a little bit of a cheeky risk. In terms of Bradley, though, it does look like Trent should be back for next weekend's games, so I would be a little bit sceptical about bringing him in. I know he's been impressive over kind of the course of his kind of short Liverpool career so far, but I think with Trent being back, European football, potentially some rotation as well, I would expect to see Trent drop in at right back in some games, or maybe Bradley come off earlier, let Trent play out those. So I think if you've not picked up Bradley already, probably one I would not be recommending. Yes, his price is nice and cheap, but I do think when Trent is back just before game week 34, we might see some reduced minutes for Bradley, or even potentially miss out on one of those double game week games. So I think for me personally, Bradley is going to be a player I would be recommending you guys do go and avoid. In terms of other players I've been asked about, Virgil van Dijk, I think is an okay option, just quite expensive for what he is, really. But if you've got the funds and you just need a centre-back for that week, maybe a wild card and out of it afterwards, fine, he does a good enough job. The other player that I wanted to talk about was McAllister. Now, he's an interesting one at 5.8 million, has actually been picking up some pretty good numbers. But in terms of players I would be absolutely dying to go and get, he's just not one of those. I think if I could stretch it, I would prefer to go and get Luis Diaz. I do feel he has that little bit more attacking threat and power and capability around him. McAllister just feels like one of those that people are kind of bandwagoning towards. Obviously, a lot of us have had good times with McAllister, especially last season when he was at Brighton. But remember, he was taking penalties for that Brighton side. I feel he's just kind of on a little bit of a purple patch at the moment, and I don't think these are consistent points that you're going to be expecting from him every single week. I do think they'll dry up, and I do think there are better options in that Liverpool attacking line. Moving on to the other team, I'm going to recommend a lot of people potentially look at the double or triple up for game week 34. If you're not free hitting, is Arsenal. Yet again, they are yet to play, so just be cautious before bringing any of their men in. We're going to start off with the centre-back, Gabriel. Now, I think Gabriel and Saliba are both fantastic picks. There isn't too much to differentiate the two. Arguably, Gabriel has that little bit more attacking threat, but I think it's just personal preference in my opinion. So I think if you go for either of those options, great stuff. Now, a lot of people have been asking me about Ben White and Kivior. For me personally, I probably would say both are avoids. Champions League football coming up for Arsenal, as well as obviously the midweek double game week round, and also Justin Timber is apparently close to resumption in terms of his first team training and getting him back into that starting 11. So I would be worried about, obviously Ben White and Kivior as well. You've also got the fact that Tomiyasu is kicking around in the squad as well. So there's a lot of competition for those places. Maybe Saliba and Gabriel do see a little bit of rotation over the next few weeks, but I think they are so crucial to the way that Arsenal play. I just can't see Arteta dropping either of those two at the moment. Ben White, I think, is pretty good and pretty nailed in that lineup, but I do think there is that susceptibility to potentially some early substitutions for Tomiyasu or even potentially Justin Timber as well. Kivior, for me, is not a go-to. I know a lot of people are very hyped about him with the 4.4 million price tag, but like I said, Justin Timber being back, I think that puts him on the avoid list. In terms of Raya as well, in terms of if you were looking for a goalkeeper for that week, I think would be a very, very solid shout to go and get if you needed a goalkeeper for double game week 34. Moving on to Saka, it does look like he is going to be fine and available for game week 31, so should be fine and available for game week 32. Does offer himself up as a potential captaincy option if you didn't fancy going for Mohamed Salah. We all know what this lad is capable of when he does have better fixtures, but it is what it is. He just can't perform against the top 6 sides, but against these lesser opponents, he should be fine. He should do quite well in the double game week. Like I said, though, just make sure that he is fully fit and available. In terms of the other midfield options, obviously Kai Havertz has been picking up quite a lot of praise over the past few weeks, but I do prefer Martin Odegaard as the option. He is a very consistent 90-minute man and captain of Arsenal as well, so I would expect him to play a large proportion of the minutes leading into the double game week and obviously in the double game week as well. I've owned him for this season at parts. I've been pretty happy. He's been a very consistent point scorer. Probably gone under the radar a little bit, has Martin Odegaard this season, but has done very well in terms of point scoring and is pretty predictable in terms of his minutes because he is the captain and just a very good, fit lad who can last 90 minutes. In terms of some other Arsenal players that maybe you want to take a look at, obviously Gabriel Jesus is a forward option, but I don't think anyone's probably going to go there with the plethora of forward options that are emerging at the moment in the game. So I don't think that's going to be an option. We kind of ran through the defenders and the midfielders, so I think that's everybody from Arsenal kind of covered off. If you've got any questions about any Arsenal Arsenal or Liverpool players, or any players that double in game week 34. You maybe want my advice to potentially bring them in. Let me know down in the comment section below, and we will try to answer as many as we can to help you get the best results for game week 34 and for the season as well. If you want to beat your mates in your mini league, the best thing that you can do is hit that subscribe button. But thank you very much for watching from me today, ladies and gentlemen. There we go, we'll get it out correctly. Thank you very much for watching from me today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck this game week.